Practice 26, the second Paramita, guarding discipline. If a lack of discipline prevents you from benefiting yourself, then your wish to benefit others is just a joke. Therefore, to guard discipline with no longing for worldly existence is the practice of a bodhisattva. Well, having discipline is something we all know can bring us a sense of more peace and spontaneity than without it. It's counterintuitive. We think if we could just be completely free from any structure, we might feel a kind of unlimited sense of freedom. And I'm not saying that isn't possible for someone, but generally for a lot of us, what happens is when we schedule things in our life, it actually allows us to have more room to be creative and spontaneous. We're not spending unnecessary energy being anxious about things that need be attending to. So there's the kind of discipline of working with our own body, speech, and mind and giving up, habitual patterns. And then there's the discipline of relating to our daily life and living a good life. And then finally, the discipline of benefiting other living beings and sentient beings, especially in their growth in the path, which is, after all, the practice of the bodhisattva, to give up chasing after worldly pleasures, but actually looking at, not rejecting those pleasures, they're fine, but guarding discipline means we put our discipline first. His Holiness the Dalai Lama has said that discipline is when we take our long-term benefit over a short-term gratification. And I think that's a good definition for us, because I think there's so many times where we kind of get sucked into something that might make us feel pleasure or comfort for the short term, but in the longer term actually costs us or makes us feel worse. So finding a way to take care of ourselves is really essential, because if we're not working with our own schedule and daily life and our own body, speech, and mind in a healthy way, then, as this stanza says, it's unlikely, if not a joke, as it says, that we'd be able to help someone else. And certainly in terms of balance, we can help people more when we ourselves are sustainably operating in terms of patterns of behavior that reflect our awake mind and heart and approaches to our relative situation that bring about virtue for ourselves and others. Sometimes discipline has to do with changing behaviors, letting go of negative behaviors. Sometimes we, something we're doing, say work, even though we could be very busy, it can be considered a form of laziness if we're working hard, but the work we're doing is not meaningful, or the work itself doesn't have a good contribution to society. It can drain our own life force and it hurts other people. So we really are being asked to guard discipline in a way. It's like guarding our momentum, our sense of energy, which is based on making the decisions that we connect with the things that matter to us and we act on the things that matter to us, as opposed to just sort of thinking about things that matter to us but not acting on it. That is the lack of discipline, and then we can't benefit ourselves. So to benefit ourselves, you actually have to change behaviors, do things that address issues. It's sort of like if there's a leak in your roof and it's dripping on your head and you're trying to meditate and you think, why am I anxious? I should be a better meditator. But here in this case, one could patch the leak and, then one could sit and meditate. The anxiety might subside because we relate it to relative reality. Of course, it's possible to sit there with a leak on your head and be at peace. And, if your ceiling falls in, you live out in nature and don't have a roof. I'm not saying these things aren't possible. It's just generally, that's not the most kind or helpful way for most of us to relate to relative reality. the way that we can best serve ourselves and others is by addressing things that are actually quite easy to address if we pay attention to them. And it's interesting because sometimes we think, oh, that meditator who doesn't do anything and just lets the roof fall, and well, that could take them out for one thing. But the other point is that that's not a better or more profound way to be. We sometimes want to test our practice to see, can I work with some hardship? Can my discipline help me have some equanimity when the waves come up and down? And that's a good thing to test. On the other hand, part of practice is saying, hey, I can patch that leak. That is the practice, being attentive to the relative reality, caring for the structure you're in, caring for yourself. It's not making things too easy in a bad way. It's relating to what you can, and that's an expression of compassion. Being able to relate to the relative reality without sort of preferring the ultimate reality, that's what discipline is saying. And then the other side of discipline, the more ultimate aspect, is, can we recognize our nature? Can we rest in a spacious, clear heart? And can we experience that and value that as the most important thing about our life, that we have this beautiful nature and that we can share it with others? But you can see, once that we recognize the spaciousness and clarity of our mind, some sense of peace, next thing we want to do, share it with others. So we again start patching roofs and opening doors and building more roofs for other people, right? So there's always an inseparability of the more ultimate acceptance and the more relative conduct of compassion. The two actually, the joke is, or the cosmic joke is, they're the same thing, really. The more we're at peace with things, the more we can act to benefit ourselves and others.